Hello Team FD and welcome back to the 12th Man, where you take us on at fantasy football in a bid to win glorious, glorious prizes. Joining me this week, yet again, he's a permanent fixture, can't get rid of him, hasn't left the chair since last week. It's Statman Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, to say the least. There's been some fixtures this weekend in the Premier League which didn't really amuse me.
As a seagull, by the way. How are you as well? Both of you
Good,
suffering over the weekend. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but has the anger died down? Because you were seething on Monday's show.
No.
No, it's still there. And if you haven't joined our league yet, let's just segue out of that. Then the pin is on screen now. It's not too late. You can still win weekly prizes. We've got shirts to give away, and the season-long prizes are well worth competing for. They're in the description below. I'm not going through them again, for God's sake. Tweet us your teams, because we're going to dig a couple of out later on in the show, go through them. We do that every week, so get them in. Let's move on to Quickfire Questions, your questions. First question is from Stephen Guttridge, and I hope he's good at maths because his English is terrible. Don't mean to dig you out, thank you for sending it in. But I am thinking taking John Stones out, who would be good replacement, not from Manchester City.
Oh, God.
Lads, why is he taking John Stones out, or considering it, Stephen, when they're playing Wolves next?
Maybe Pep Guardiola doesn't like playing teams with back threes. That could be the issue, and he's thinking, look, tactically, Guardiola rates playing teams that sit back. Wolves could do that this weekend, so Stones out.
Do you think they're going to line up in a similar vein against Wolves than they did against Huddersfield? They're going to have the majority of possession, and Benjamin Mendy doesn't necessarily have to play an orthodox left position. Probably won't have a right back. John Stones probably will play in a back three.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that's the interesting side of both Mourinho, Guardiola over the last few seasons. When they play back threes, they play back threes themselves. I think, you know, Huddersfield got absolutely torn apart. The thing with City when they play that system is they have 6 attackers, 2 centre forwards, 2 centre mids, and the 2 wide players, Bernardo Silva and Mendy. Mendy, though, Jesus, what a player.
Ridiculous.
He's unbelievable.
Short game. What do you think, Joseph?
Yeah, don't take John Stones out of your team. I actually read an interview with Pep Guardiola, don't know whether you guys have read it, where he talks about him coming up with a way of finally being able to break down teams that sit deep and just play a low block against him during the summer. And I don't know whether that is that sort of lopsided back three with one wide man that's far more naturally going to give you far more natural width in Benjamin Mendy and Bernardo Silva, who drifts in just to overload one side potentially. I think
he tried that against Liverpool in the Champions League last season with, you know, what was it, Sane on one side, Walker on the other. It didn't quite work, but I think he's been waiting for Mendy to come back to pull this off. And like, I think the other thing
against Everton, he played Sane at left wing back. Do you remember?
Yeah, again,
did not work at all.
that's. I think Silva's better defensively. Bernardo Silva's better defensively, but I think as well you get Aguero and Jesus in a side, which is pretty dangerous.
He's desperate to do that as well.
And I think it helps Aguero. Aguero's like a player that likes coming off a little bit, and when he's playing as a central striker, he kind of has to hold his position, which he doesn't like. So I think the system works well for City. So I'd be keeping Stones in probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Although Vincent Kompany completed 109 passes over the weekend, the most passes of anyone on Sky Fantasy Premier. So he got the most bonus points. Ooh. So why don't you just put Kompany in?
But he said not Man City, so who are we going to actually say?
Yeah, but Stephen, come on, you're being silly now. They're playing Wolves. You've got to play fantasy football on a week-by-week basis.
I think you've got Hector Bellerin's a shout. David Luiz, maybe.
Hector's an interesting
Certainly not Bailly or Lindelof.
All right, mate.
Yeah.
Brilliant, well done.
So,
was there any need for that?
Too soon?
No. Yeah.
Oh, God, let's go on to the next question.
Pathetic.
The next question comes from Levy Out. So he's made his feelings pretty clear there, hasn't he? And he's asked, can Tottenham challenge for the title with their good start? So that's back-to-back victories. Harry Kane's finally scored. In what month is it? August? Probably, don't know anymore. Lads, what do you make of this? Because lacking squad depth for me.
Yeah, massively lacking squad depth, particularly going forward, and especially at striker. I think that the fact they've had to use Harry Kane already is a significant issue. I don't really see Harry Kane completing a full season this year. I don't know what you boys think, but he looks slow at the World Cup. I don't think he ever fully recovered from that injury he picked up against Bournemouth when Begovic injured his ankle. And I think they've rushed him back, to be totally honest, and I think that's going to come back to bite him on the arse about January, February sort of time.
They were dealt a tough hand, weren't they, when Son had to go off to the Asian Games. So in an ideal world, Pochettino probably would have rested him. But he's had to start with Harry Kane at the start of the season, averaging, what, 2 shots against Newcastle. Maybe fared a little bit better against Fulham, but Fulham far more open side.
He should have scored actually against Fulham.
Lucas Moura, his development might be an interesting one. If he can continue to contribute, maybe Harry Kane can be rested at various points. Dele Alli can play a little bit more centrally. So, Dave, what do you make of Pochettino's forward predicament?
I think it's not a bad thing at the moment. You know, you're thinking that Dele Alli's scoring again. Eriksen looks really, really good, and as you mentioned, Lucas Moura. But it is all about Kane. If Kane's in, they look good, and without Kane, there's Son. You know, you don't want to pay Fernando Llorente for a quarter of a season. You ain't going to get anything out of him. But it is interesting that he finally scored what I think it was his 49th shot in August. So it's one of those things where if he can get over that, he can stay fit. And you remember last season, Harry Kane, he also looked injured at the start of the year. And then he came back into it in October. So it's this first bit, if Spurs can pick up points in this first few months of the season and consistently beat teams, then they will be in the title challenge. But are they going to beat the likes of Man City or Liverpool this season? Probably not.
Yeah, I worry about their midfield depth as well. We've spoke about this before in some vibes. I think we spoke about it a little bit last week in that they should have gone all guns blazing for someone like Thiago Alcantara or tried to get Kovacic on a... Probably would have had to pay a hefty loan fee. But if Eriksen gets injured, the creativity is lacking a little bit in midfield. And if Moussa Dembele's legs give up, he came on against Fulham. He and Eric Lamela really took the game to Fulham, made a huge difference. I'd say if Dembele or Eriksen get injured at any point, then they're really struggling in that department too, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, for me though, they are challenging for top 4, not for a title. In the same regards as Manchester United and Arsenal, I think there's 2 different brackets of top 3, and Chelsea are kind of hovering between the 2 right now. Obviously, you've got City and Liverpool challenging for a title. I think Chelsea, you never know, might push them. There might be some craziness there, but I don't think their defence is quite solid enough to do it. And then you've got Arsenal, Tottenham and United all battling for one position, in my opinion. I think they're all a similar calibre of mediocre.
Ooh, damning. In regards to fantasy football, it's actually pretty important, I think, if you want to win this week, to have a player who is playing Monday, because that enables you to schedule 3 captains. So I've actually got Harry Kane playing on Monday against Manchester United, scheduled him as captain. I think he could have a field day if you guys are anywhere near as porous as you were against Brighton, which is a shame really, because I thought Bailly and Lindelof might be the pairing, as much as I was mocking you earlier. How do you solve that defensive instability at United? Is it just a matter of system or coaching? Or
I don't know. You think look at the goals that United conceded. If you were playing a back 3, you'd take that first goal isn't conceded because you've got a centre back that's covering the post. You've also got another player that's going to go out and help the overlap or the underlap or whatever it was from Brighton. That solves that. The third goal as well would have been probably either negated or there would have been help with them playing out of the back. There's an extra defender there. There's no one, you know, the split isn't as bad. Brighton have to throw more bodies forward. But that goes without talking about the performances, because they didn't, when United were down 3-1, there wasn't a reaction. And I think that was the worst thing. They changed the system. Brought, you know,
what did you make of the double substitution?
I think it was a good substitution. That's what you need. I think Fellaini should have been brought on a lot earlier, to be quite honest.
That's our best attacking route. If we're admitting that we can only score goals through Fellaini, then may as well stick him on at half time.
That's the thing. If you're going to play to Fellaini, but the thing that United do that frustrates me is they go long from central areas to Fellaini, and it's more that you want to get wide and then cross. If you've got Lukaku and Fellaini in there, you take Belgium at the World Cup against Japan. They did that. They had Lukaku, Fellaini, and they came back and they obviously got to the semis eventually. But it's one of those things where play to your strengths. Don't just hit aimless long balls. Get it wide and cross it. 0 chances created for Lukaku. I think he had 2 shots. He didn't have the worst game, I don't think. He tired, I think. He massively tired in the second half, Lukaku.
Yeah.
Maybe could have been brought off before. I think Mourinho's plan was to take him off. You know, he said in the pre-game he could last about 60 minutes, 75 minutes. So, again, it's all of this weird World Cup stuff, but it's no excuse for the levels of performances.
Let's pick up Manchester United a little bit later in our match preview, because we're going to talk about that Monday Night Football special. A couple more audience questions and then we'll move on.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Next question comes from Sam Cullum, and he has asked what player within the £9 million region is going to be the bargain of the season. I'm going to take this straight off the bat, lads, and say Jorginho at 9.1 in my team has been the mainstay. He's been the main points getter, 20 points in 2 weeks for a deep line playmaker. Fantastic. Obviously, you get bonus points for 60 passes completed, 70 passes completed. He's ticking all the boxes. He's averaging way above that so far in this game. So I think at 9.1, you can't go far wrong with the, do we call him an Italian or Brazilian? Probably Italian.
Italian by trade, I think.
So by trade, asterisk. Joe?
Diego Costa vibes. Yeah, I think Jorginho is a good shout. I suppose for a little bit less, I'd be tempted by Richarlison. I think he's 8.6 on the game, and he's classified as a midfielder, but he's definitely operating as a forward in that Everton system. So yeah, I'd be tempted by Richarlison. Obviously, his shot to goal ratio right now is unbelievable and unsustainable. But I do think he's probably going to get 10 to 15 goals this season, and that for me at 8.6 million is a bargain.
I think that's a great shout.
I think a Jorginho for me. I think what Sarri's built at Chelsea is all about him in central midfield. And I think the thing as well, he's going to play every single game because without him, they don't really have a player to come in. Maybe a Fabregas could play that role, but you're not going to do it anywhere near as good as him. You take the game at the weekend against Arsenal as well. You know, doing it against a team that's quite aggressive in the press. Yes, Ozil sort of stood off him at certain points, and there was issues there, but he still commanded the game, still completed his passes. And again, in fantasy football, that's what you want to do. And I think you'll see him get more assists if he's taking penalties as well, like he did in the first game of the season. It's just points. Points are racking up.
And I think he's a very press-resistant player. I read a really interesting article with him about how, after his first couple of years under Sarri, particularly last year, a lot of people in Serie A really targeted him, man-marked him from that deep-lying position. So he said he actually spent the last 18 months adapting his game in order to find space, and you see that so often. He's so intelligent, isn't he?
Massively. I think the thing with him as well, in terms of why he completes a lot of passes, is because he plays one touch. When he's got pressure on his back, he'll always check his shoulder and then he'll play back. And then eventually when he'll move himself around, like you're saying, then he'll turn and play forward. And I think that's the beauty of him as a player, is he doesn't rush. He almost takes his time in possession. He lets the move develop. And what's interesting as well is how quick Sarri got Chelsea to play like that and through him.
Yeah.
And again, fantasy football points, that's what you want really. You want to be the main hub of the team.
Yeah, and what else I find interesting is, I don't know about you boys, but how do you think their midfield is going to evolve over the course of the season? Because Kovacic came in, did extremely well in the last 25 minutes that he played against Arsenal. Ross Barkley has looked impressive in patches, and obviously N'Golo Kante is a little bit more advanced as a result. But do you see that midfield three changing at any point?
I think I'd go with Kovacic instead of Barkley. I think when you play someone that's a Jorginho, that's a Regista, that will get on the ball, you arguably need to give a bit of protection. I was doing a little bit of looking to like Pirlo and his, you know, when he played his best football, and in fact it was next to Ambrosini and Gattuso, as well as having, you know, the likes of Kaká and Seedorf ahead of him.
Oh, okay.
But it was having those two players that work hard, that are combative, that makes me think Kovacic in the Premier League will be a better option, just because he's a little bit more bitey, a little bit more you know, quicker on the ball.
Had that at Juventus as well, didn't he? He played some of his best football at Regista when Vidal and Pogba were just...
That's the kind of thing, yeah. You've got shuttlers either side of you, and that really protects you.
Yeah, I think you'll see Ross Barkley get a lot of minutes though. I think especially against teams in the lower half, when Sarri can afford to play as Jorginho and Kante, kind of almost a midfield two, with Ross Barkley pushed more in that Hamsik role. I think that you'll see that deployed more than Kovacic. I don't know whether you need Kovacic, Jorginho and Kante against a Cardiff or a Huddersfield. It seems a little bit overkill to me. I think Kovacic came on and completed 6 tackles and interceptions in like 25 minutes on the weekend. Do you need that when you're going to have upwards of 60 to 70% possession?
Just shored it up for Arsenal, didn't it, at the end, as opposed to...
I think you also need to be aware though, right? Like, you need to be aware that he's got deficiencies defending. Like, Arsenal created a lot of chances in Jorginho's zone. Like, the cutbacks were to where Jorginho should have been. And having an extra player there that can track back and can drop in is going to be quite important for... I think the counter-attacking teams are going to catch Chelsea out, I think. Teams that sit deep, loads of bodies behind the ball, and then look to hit wide, where someone like a Kovacic could be perfect to play. But I kind of agree, like, I'd play Ross Barkley, more attacking player in those games, but maybe you've got to go the other way and be like, let's be a little bit more defensive.
Particularly if you've got Eden Hazard on the left, because Alonso isn't the most defensive-minded fullback, is he? I think Palmieri will kind of rectify that to an extent. We spoke about Palmieri last week as well, didn't we? How he's an absolute bargain at 6.5 potentially on this game, because I mean, Alonso's making it extremely hard for him to be replaced right now, but I think we'll see Palmieri coming at the end of the season. But yeah, let's touch upon Chelsea again, because we're going to discuss their game against Newcastle as well a little bit later. Final question is from What's Yo, and then a bunch of numbers, sort your handle out. And I think this one is specifically for you, Statman Dave. What is Lawrence McKenna's beard like? Has he got a beard now?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's just straight up beautiful.
Straight up?
Straight up. That's all you need to say.
No need to delve into that anymore. Let's move on to the match previews. Okay, our match previews kick off with the 12:30 on Saturday, which is Wolves versus Manchester City. A tough start for Wolves, and this is going to be their biggest test to date. Currently 14th in the Premier League on the solitary point. Manchester City obviously top on 6 points with a goal difference of +7
after two games. Lovely.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Now, historically, Manchester City not had a lot of problems with Wolves. They played them 24 times, beat them 14 times, only lost the 5. But Wolves, I think, have been a bit unfortunate at the start of the season. Actually, after 2 games, they're conceding the fewest shots per game in the Premier League, with 6, which I found quite surprising and quite impressive Lads, what do you make of Wolves' chance in this game? Start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I do think Man City are going to win, but Wolves, I think maybe other than Arsenal, have had the toughest start to the season. Obviously, Arsenal have had considerably harder fixtures, but Everton, Leicester and Man City in your opening 3 games as a newly promoted side is tough for Nuno Espirito Santo. Yeah, they should have beat Leicester. And Everton, obviously, Richarlison doing bits, and they're a little bit unfortunate to draw 2-2 there. So I think Espirito Santo will be relatively pleased. Obviously, he talked about how proud he was of the side, and obviously they've got Adama Traore to come back in there after his shoulder injury. I think he's probably going to replace Costa on that right-hand side. I think you'll probably see Jimenez, Jota and Traore start on the weekend against City. He's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think he completed 7 dribbles on the weekend. He was on 45 minutes. His dribbling ability...
The most in Europe in one half.
His dribbling ability is outrageous, and he's so strong, like physically a beast.
I wonder how that muscle doesn't slow him down.
It's incredible. He's got the quickest acceleration probably in the league alongside Kyle Walker. It's incredible to watch. So I think Wolves will be okay in this game. I don't think they're going to get Huddersfielded. But,
new objective for this.
But I think that they're still going to be in trouble. City are just different league.
What about you, David?
Yeah, I think there's a number of problems. I think Ivan Cavallero as well, either Traore or Cavallero needs to be in that side. I've not been impressed with Helder Costa in the Premier League. He looks a bit too basic. He looks like he hasn't got that yard of pace to go past or the skills on the ball. Like last season when I watched Wolves, Cavallero was the guy that was making things happen. Jota would finish things off, the central striker would be there in and around combination play, but it was all about that right-hand side. The issue for that is Mendy is the big issue. You need to pin him back. Yeah. If he gets into the final third, you're pretty much done. Those crosses to the near post, they're just, they're so difficult to deal with as a defender.
Because I think Doherty will probably start a right back for them, right? And it's a lot of pressure on Doherty to manage a flank of what maybe Leroy Sané and Benjamin Mendy, because Adama Traore is not going to be doing defensive work on the weekend.
We saw what they did to Hector Bellerin down that left-hand side. There was an absolute mauling. Bernardo Silva just popping up on the edge of the area as well, lapping up those balls from Mendy. Brilliant. What has interested me this week about the dynamic, I suppose, between these two sides is Manchester City's linked with Ruben Neves in January. Now imagine if they added a player of his calibre to their ranks, and I suppose there's an element of this where I just think Uncle George is just like, okay, let's put the rumour out there, look how good a springboard Wolves is. Neves has already been linked with Manchester City after entrusting effectively his status with me for 12 months. Now let me take you through some of his stats. He's been averaging 85 passes a game as Neves, so bonus points in Sky Fantasy Football. 2.5 shots per game from his deep lying position, which is the same as Pogba and Wilfried Zaha. 1 goal, 1 assist in 2 starts. Also completes 3 tackles and interceptions, which is not too dissimilar from James Milner. So this is a guy at 21 who seemingly has it all. Do you think Manchester City, do you think there's any credence to this?
I think City are definitely going to be in the market for a defensive midfielder. Whether or not Ruben Neves is going to be high on that list, I'm not overly convinced about. I don't think. I think he would cost an obscene amount of money. Did he not just sign a 4-year contract at the start of the summer, something like that? So I think if he was to move, he would cost a lot of money. That's not saying City can't pay it. And if Jorge Mendes wants to get the move done, it will get done. But potentially other markets in the other options in the market that are going to cost less than Ruben Neves in January. And are City going to need to sign a defensive midfielder in January? I think if they were that desperate, they would have got one in the summer. I think they're probably waiting out till next summer.
They kind of tried, didn't they? Tried Kovacic, they tried Jorginho, both of them went to Chelsea.
Even Fred was linked, wasn't he?
Fred was another player that they missed out on. I think it's a position that Guardiola wants to strengthen. I think you've got Fernandinho in there, and you've seen Gundogan play there, but there's no replacement for Fernandinho. It'd be a good move, but if you're Ruben Neves, you want to be playing every week, right? You're in that part of your career where you really need to get the game time in. The thing I like about him is his ability to switch to play. Play both of the wing backs in for Wolves. And again, for City, you think about how they attack and how they overload people out wide with switches of play. It's almost like he's the perfect player for defensive midfield if Guardiola wants to take them to this next step.
It's a very good point. I like it a lot. I think he's got that ability to play at a top side. Have any of you got him in your fantasy football teams? I have at 8.5.
No, I haven't got him in there.
Suckers! Have you got any Man City players?
Yeah, I've actually bought some in, but we're going to talk about that, are we? In a bit?
I think we should about that now. Oh, okay, when we review our teams, all right. Because I've done a little bit of research, and I've actually come to the conclusion that, I know you've got Mendy in your side, but what was it, 9.5?
He scores goals for fun, doesn't he?
He does, but just doing a little bit of research, like I said.
Mendy
Liverpool defenders, seem to be, and Liverpool players in general, seem to be an awful lot cheaper, and I think their output will be similar.
Really?
So Trent Alexander-Arnold, 16
Defensively.
points this season. Mendy has 20. He's only 8.4, so 1.1 cheaper.
But Mendy should have had
Mendy.
3 more assists on the weekend than were given to him on fantasy football because he got assists of assists.
I think
Alexander-Arnold
was brilliant against Crystal Palace. Could have had an assist in that game too. So that would be my argument. Silva, who I also like, Bernardo Silva, 9.3 million, only selected by 7% of players.
One of them being me.
However, James Milner is on 23 points and only costs 8.8.
But I think when
what do you make of that?
I think when Fabinho's up, running and fully fit, I don't think James Milner will start.
Oh, you cannot drop Jimbo Milner at the start of this season. He's been the heart and soul of that side.
He has been on fire, to be fair.
He has been fantastic, but when Fabinho's fit, he's going to start, isn't he?
Nah, they'll just.
I think Milner's going to stay in there. I think
right
with that
back.
defensive midfield position that may rotate.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
What, Van Alden?
Yeah, I think Milner, in terms of what he's done and how he goes wide and allows Salah to come inside, it's like tactically it makes a lot of sense. So taking him out and bringing Fabinho in would be, I know, almost a regressive step for their system and how they're playing at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's strange that the Liverpool players are low because Bernardo Silva expected him to do reasonably well, didn't grab anything in terms of goals and assists at the weekend, but played very well.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about value, and fantasy football is about value, right?
Yeah.
Milner could be the guy.
He's always the guy. Anyway,
He
let's
also
move on.
takes pens as well. He also takes pens, so.
And free kicks.
Does he?
Yeah.
Corners.
From out wide. Corners. So, in fact, if anything, if
Go
you're going to take away one thing from this episode, it's get James Milner in your team. Match number 2 is Newcastle versus Chelsea. This is Sunday at 4 o'clock. We can potentially skate over this a little bit quicker. Newcastle only won one of their last 6 meetings with the Blues, and boys, do you imagine this changing this time round?
Absolutely not.
I think this could be an absolute tanking, but I reckon both sides could concede it. I think this could be an exciting game, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be a 4-2. Chelsea is so open on the break. They're so open in the wide areas. I like how they defend narrow and I understand the compactness of it, but they're so slow to get out to close people down. We saw Arsenal destroy them out wide.
But Newcastle are a mess.
They are, absolutely. But
howling.
Kennedy, he's suspended this week, actually.
I don't think Kennedy can play
No.
because is he not on loan from Chelsea?
Yeah,
so I think he won't be able to.
So that's their main threat gone.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just going to be a 4-0 romping.
He wasn't their main threat against Cardiff, was he? Missed that penalty, he didn't complete a pass in the whole of the first half. It was absolutely toilet.
He was
great
waiting,
against
wasn't
Tottenham.
he? He was
great
waiting.
against Tottenham.
Arguably still better than Hoslu though, who is just the invisible man when he's on the pitch.
I mean, I do worry for Newcastle because
Seriously,
the strength of a Benitez side is that they are defensively sound, right? But you wonder how long that can continue with this personnel. You know, with all due respect to Kieran Clark and Jamal Lascelles against sides like Sarri's Chelsea. I think they're averaging 18 shots a game, Chelsea, at the start of this season, which is the 3rd highest in the league. I think they managed 24 against Arsenal. So
they had 11 on target, didn't they?
Unpick, I mean, Newcastle are going to be a little bit more sitting. They're going to be less expansive than Arsenal, right? But I think Alvaro Morata might continue his comeback against Newcastle.
So do I.
I loved his
11.7
finish.
million on the game.
Loved his finish. It was so composed and confident. That was the thing that he was lacking in pre-season, lacking in the first few games. Was just that, like, I can do this kind of thing. Like, I can score a really good goal.
By 1.4% of players. So if you think he might do it, might be a good time to get him in.
I'll get him in now.
I would get him in as well. I think he could go on a bit of a run now, a bit of a goal-scoring run.
Right, let's finish this off with Manchester United versus Tottenham. You boys, obviously, the best players to talk about this game. Now, you only mustered 3 shots against Brighton. One was Pogba's penalty. Are you going to score goals against a very tight defence?
No.
I've just deleted it from my mind, so maybe not. I think it's the things that need to be worked on for sure. There was some good stuff against Leicester City. There was some bad stuff against Brighton. Yeah, it's not looking great at the moment.
For me,
shoot more. Pogba needs to shoot more.
Pogba does need to
shoot.
He took Alexis Sanchez's place, didn't he, with a failed dink through ball in that game?
For me, I kind of agree with Dave though. I think we might see the return of the Louis van Gaal free at the back here against Tottenham on the weekend. Maybe just some people will say to match them up, but I actually think that could be Jose's formula going forward, isn't it?
Like I'll go back to like the World Cup with Louis van Gaal with Holland, right? We're taking you on a journey here, right? I am Robin up front with RVP. but they had a back three that were absolutely atrocious in terms of like where
Ron
they were.
Vlaar.
They had Devige, they had Indy,
Yeah, and it
Martin's
was Ron
Indy,
Vlaar, I think.
and Vlaar, and they weren't very good then in their careers. I think Devige is a good player now, but then they weren't. And he said he would play 3 because he knew that they'd make mistakes 1v1.
Was it Van der Wiel at right back as well?
Yeah, like he knew that there were mistakes there, so he was like, right, let's throw an extra defender there. Maybe that's what United need right now.
I mean, the
Who
unfortunate.
would be the third defender for you boys?
The third defender. God, during pre-season he dropped McTominay in there, didn't it?
Oh yeah, Scott can play anywhere though. He's a legend.
So it'll probably be Phil Jones, I think.
The interesting side of it, if Nemanja Matic comes back, playing him as a left-sided centre half.
Oh, for God's sake!
Why not? Let's try it.
Horrifying. I think.
Why? Yeah, we're in the
More
situation now. We
horrifying.
may as well go. For
Trip
it.
to the Amex and you boys have absolutely lost.
More
your
horrifying
absolutely.
than the potential of Scott McTominay playing as a centre back is Ashley Young playing as a right wing back.
I'd have hauled him off after 10 minutes, Dave. What on earth was he doing out
What
there?
is he thinking? Out
Yeah,
there?
he did have a great
He
game.
surrendered possession twice, had a pass accuracy of 75%.
I don't think
I've
he got
never
the protection
seen. I've never seen
either.
more
He
gappage
wasn't
between a
protected
right
by
back
either,
and a
was
centre
he?
back.
But then there was also that was because consequently Juan Mata wasn't protecting him.
Okay.
So he's got to be far out because there's no one in front of him to deal with the issue.
Yeah.
Like the goal was a 2v1 on him. Like there was nothing he could do with that goal.
Pereira in the middle was quite brave. I didn't realise he was playing until he got subbed off.
I thought he was okay.
Good player.
Actually,
I thought he played quite well. The
But
goal
he's more
obviously
of an
is
attacking
issue.
midfielder, right?
No, but
In
he's
a
played.
4-3-3, you think he's
But
good enough to play in the centre?
He's played defensive mid for the entirety of pre-season,
Yeah,
and
and
he's been
been good.
taken as part of the Brazilian squad.
I'd take that with a pinch of salt
in
because your
defensive
squad's been
midfield.
very makeshift pre-season.
No, but Jose definitely sees him
Scott
as a defensive
McTominay's been there.
midfielder. Jose definitely sees him as a defensive midfielder, doesn't he?
I like him. I like him at DM. I just think that he needs a bit of time to learn the position.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, played right wing, left wing, attacking midfield, defensive midfield is a different game.
And obviously he got called up to the Brazil squad, didn't he?
Yeah, with Fred.
To play as a defensive midfielder, but I don't know whether he rejected the call up or it just didn't go.
No, I think he's going.
Oh, he is going?
Going on
Alright
tour.
then.
Well, if
with the
Tito
boys.
rates him, then I rate him, okay? Interesting you mentioned Fred because his game looked a little bit like this. He's 8.9 million on Sky Fantasy Football.
Bloody hell.
If you feel like investing, I think under 1% have shared that sentiment, so probably not. He completed no take-ons, he registered no tackles, he lost possession 6 times and he conceded 3 fouls. Now, I actually felt a little bit sorry for him.
Yeah, I dug him out on Twitter and I feel a little bit bad
Because
for it,
he
I'll be
was just, he just looked like he didn't quite know where he was playing, what his responsibilities were. Davo, Joe made his thoughts very clear on Monday's show.
He's a good player, Fred, and he will be a good player. I think there's parts of his game again that I liked, and I think that because there was so many individual errors for the goal, like we forget that there was some nice passage of play for United where they were playing some decent possession football, but we forget it all because of the obviously the result, which you can't disagree with. But I think Fred just needs to be a little bit smarter when he's closing people down, stay on his feet a little bit more.
Rushing out.
That's a good thing if you're doing it in the right situation. I think you should be a little bit more cautious.
Did he play in a 3 at Shakhtar?
2.
A 2. Okay, yeah, you can kind of tell at this point. Can't
He
you?
rushes out a hell of a lot. He's a little bit Ander Herrera-y.
But I don't think that's a
Herrera.
problem in the right situation. But the problem with United is they don't press on halfway, and Fred will go, and then no one else will go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fred potentially could come good, but there's just no cohesion in the midfield. Like, United should be dominating the ball against Brighton. We should be completely dominant on the ball, and we were not. It wasn't as if I was seeing Pogba and Fred dictating the tempo of the game from midfield.
I thought Pogba was quite dominant until the final third. Like, I thought there was parts of his game which were really good against Brighton, but then there was just parts that were... he looked so exasperated.
His head went completely. He'd lost it.
Okay, talking of heads going, before we move on, score prediction, and then we'll move on to Mino Raiola's tweets. Just very, very...
Oh my God, no, we're not, are we?
Oh,
I tell you what.
I actually think United are going to beat Tottenham. I'm going to go 2-1 to the Red Devils.
I'll go 2-0 Tottenham.
Oh, yeah.
1-0 United. It's happened every season, hasn't it?
It is. There's always a flicker on Martial.
Yeah, one goal. Simple.
I feel it would be such a Tottenham thing to do, to lose to Man United at this point when they're at the most vulnerable. Anyway, Mino Raiola. Okay, he's dug out Paul Scholes. The tweet's going to be on the screen now. I'm not going to go through them. What is he doing here, Dave? Because you think this is premeditated. You think it's been in the pipeline for a long time.
I think there's a plan behind that. Yeah, he's had it in the drafts. He's composed it on a quiet Thursday afternoon, and he's ready for the right time to drop it.
I think he's done this after 4 bottles of red wine.
I think it's just a situation where agents in the game shouldn't be allowed on Twitter if you're an agent. That should be one of the rules. Shouldn't be allowed on social media because you're dealing directly with clubs. Like they're influencing the market. they're like, you know, it's like backhand trading in a way where they're influencing a sale. They're trying to push a sale out. They're trying to change people's opinions, and that's quite frankly absolutely wrong.
So you think censorship is the way forward?
Censorship is the way forward.
Censorship.
Put it down.
Censorship.
Yeah.
Dave Putin.
1984.
What do you
Nina.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Dave. Obviously,
militant.
He went in the first place, Pogba, didn't he? And I remember Sir Alex Ferguson doing a talk. I think it might have been like an Italian university, something like that. And somebody asked him why he got rid of Pogba. And the first words out of his mouth were, in a less kind way, his agent's not a particularly nice fella.
Yeah.
So he's still got the same agent, it's still Mino Raiola, and he's still not a particularly nice fella. But that's life, and Ed Woodward should be able to deal with a man like Mino Raiola. He's meant to be our... Is he the CEO? What is he now, Ed? He's whatever.
Just a dude, isn't he?
Big dog.
Yeah, big Ed. He should be able to deal with Mino Raiola in a manner that doesn't end with Mino Raiola coming out and battering Paul Scholes on Twitter, in my opinion.
At the same time, it's just awful. Like it's a legend at Man United.
I know.
He's come out and disrespected.
Ridiculous.
Oh, carrot top. But do you think agents should be banned off Twitter? Let us know in the poll just above.
Just banned in general.
Ban
Absolutely banned.
We're now
Full
moving
stop.
on to changes in our team. All right, a quick look at our teams then before we have a quick look at yours and transfers in and out, Joseph, for your team. Look like this.
A myriad. I've bought Benny Mendy into the team. I know Dave's already got him, but I think he's going to have a massive season. I've also bought Pereira, Leicester's Pereira, into the team. Obviously counts as a right back or a defender on the game, but he's kind of playing more advanced in that Leicester side under Claude Puel, so kind of a bit of a cheat there. I've also bought Theo Walcott in, a cheaper option than Richarlison, but I still think he's going to get 10+ goals in this Everton side.
Really good start to the season, yeah.
So those three. I've also bought in Van Aanholt, because I think Palace have impressed me more so than maybe a lot of other teams.
They were
at the
great
start of
last
the
night
season.
against Liverpool.
Yeah, Palace I think are in for a top 10 finish, and I think Van Aanholt will get assists, so I've bought him in, and then Kieran Trippier. Just now I bought him in because obviously he didn't start the season because of the World Cup and Serge Aurier started against Newcastle, but now he's back, he's going to lock down that position and takes free kicks and corners for him.
So wholesale changes really, and you only get a limited amount of transfers.
40 you get a season.
I've also made 4 as well. So
Are you two all right?
A pattern's emerging here that me and Joe have absolutely lost our heads at our bang average starts. Dave, what do you make of these? Lukaku out for Aguero, and I've made him captain as well for the game.
I'll probably, yeah,
Good
that's
decision.
smart.
Does that get the Statman Dave seal of approval? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Delafeu out, he was injured. He was my fixer, my enabler. In that he only cost 7.8, so it enabled me to get better players. However, didn't play, is injured. So I swapped him out for Iwobi, he was only 7.9. And Iwobi actually impressed me in large parts against Chelsea. Torreira out, he was horrible when he came on against Chelsea. I think he will settle, I think he's a good player, but it looks like Emery's going to stick with Xhaka for now.
He hooked Xhaka at half time.
Yeah, but he's still started him twice, hasn't he?
But even Lucas Torreira, I don't think he's going to smash fantasy points.
No,
not in the same way Jorginho does in terms of passes. That's for sure.
I mean, it was more so because Lucas Torreira was 8.4. He can take a free kick.
I think Guendouzi's a better option than Torreira in that midfield.
I think Guendouzi's going to be a little bit deeper when they finally sort out their system. But nonetheless, Iwobi's better than the pair of them foot points wise. Leighton Baines out only because I needed 0.01 more million for Iwobi. But Leighton Baines actually had a very solid start to the season. I believe he's on 7 points.
Yeah,
so
keeping
far.
Digne out.
And I brought Shaw in for 7.8.
It's a gamble, that, mate. You don't know if he's going to be
gamble.
playing next week.
That's him done, mate. He's never getting back in a red shirt.
Which is kind of why I think that, probably why I've gone for a Manchester United win, just wanting more than anything else. But what about you, Dave?
Well, I've kept it the same. I've considered Pedro. Pedro looks like he's going to be on the end of stuff.
Expensive for the 9 million region.
Yeah, so maybe Bernardo Silva to Pedro, but I still believe in Bernardo Silva. You're also looking at someone like Richarlison. I think he could be one that's coming straight in, just because of his point output. I think he's looking in form at the moment.
All right, fair play. Let's look at a few fan sides. This one was sent in on Twitter by Space Gaming 123.
Oh dear.
And I mean, he smashed the forward line. Aguero, Salah, Mane. This must have been while the Liverpool game was happening. I don't think the points are quite updated yet, but a very solid midfield from you there.
At the detriment of his backline, which is vile.
Who is Vinegar?
I don't know.
He plays for
awful backline.
He's a left wing back.
Ooh,
but he didn't start.
He
got
got Johnny in the summer from Atleti, didn't they?
I'm trying to think of a Vinegar-related joke.
I mean, leave it.
Can't do it.
Yeah, you've lost it, mate.
Leave it.
You
But
missed the time.
Ward, also, I would not recommend having Burnley defenders in. I think Burnley are going to struggle significantly this season.
Finnegan's going to have Aguero on chips, something like that.
Wow.
No? Oh, God.
Jesus. Was that worth it?
I've left it. And this team, Neenan United, it wasn't worth it to address your question, is actually second in our division at current.
See why as well.
Good team.
It's a great team.
And if you come top this week, Neenan, then you can win a shirt. But remember, you've got to let us know on Twitter when you are triumphant so we can get a shirt of your choice out to you.
Such a good team. How has he afforded it? It's unbelievable.
Again, the midfield, very good, and I think Seri will get him more points eventually, although Maddison, somewhat fortunate to get that goal against Wolves, created a lot of chances against United. Were you impressed with Maddison?
Yeah, he's a good little player. I think he'll be good this season. He'll be a good point scorer.
Big time, although I think that Claude Puel still struggle a little bit, particularly with the Jamie Vardy injury. I know that Iheanacho, not injury, red card, sorry. I know that Iheanacho comes in, but just
not the same calibre at all. Yeah.
Stupid from Jamie. Neenan, very much of the Statman Dave school of thought in that he's gone for ridiculously expensive fullbacks.
That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
All the fullbacks.
Not quite sure I agree with that. More about the outrageous front three. So well done to you guys. Again, get your teams at us on Twitter if you want to hear us talk about them. Let's move now, guys, into a little bit of advice from our expert Dan, who has won Sky Fantasy Football before, and that's where the show ultimately ends, Dave. And our 2-week association comes crashing down.
Can I come back?
Just distant, friends.
Again,
from
one more time.
One more time.
Right, the weekly bit of wisdom from Dan Cox is don't use all your transfers too quickly. I wish you'd said that to me and you prior to us making 10% of our season-long transfers. And here's some top performers from this week as well on Sky Fantasy Football. Most successful tackle was Matt Loughton with 6, earning him 3 bonus points. Most completed passes, like I said, Vinny Company. Most shots on target, Gabriel Jesus, 5 shots in a game. Me, you and Van Straten sat here and we said that would never happen. 5 shots on target in a single game, 3 points. I thought Harry Kane would get there first. It is Gabby Jesus. And most saves made, Ben Hamer made 9.
Yeah, you also had a howler, so I hope they gave him some negative points.
Who was it that got -5 for someone this week? Congolo from Huddersfield.
Ooh, yeah. So yellow card,
avoid him. Any final words of wisdom, Dave, before you tell our lovely audience where to go next?
Got to be defenders. Spend high with defenders. Decent midfield. High with your strikers.
You've been proved so right so far. Sorry, with Benjamin Mendy, I've got to say.
He's the man. He's the man that's going to get the points. He's going to win you the title this season.
And now you've imparted the wisdom, where should they go, Dave?
Statman Dave YouTube channel. Go and check it out.
What's your latest video about?
Oh, it's about fun.
It's about fun.
Go and check it out. It's fun. It's a fun video.
Just mixed it up, hasn't he? Right, if you've not joined our league, the pin is on screen now. This is where the show ends. Joseph, what else is happening on Football Daily, Euro Football Daily?
We've got the Football Social this weekend. Got some really good guests on it. I don't know what the game is yet, but it should be a lot of fun, so tune into that. Mikey McCubbin's definitely on it. Stat Wars champion and ultimate legend. Ultimate legend,
He beat me.